Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Martha Simmons with another session of Preaching and Preachers on Facebook Live and YouTube. Good afternoon. The last broadcast of 2025, and we are here for it. Good afternoon. Good morning to my people on the West Coast who get up early to join me for this broadcast, to shouting out the folk in the Midwest, certainly the people on the East Coast, and last but certainly not least, everybody in the dirty South. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Come on in and join me for the last broadcast of Preaching and Preachers for 2025. We are here for it. We are here for it. It is relatively sunny day in Atlanta in the 60s. And on December 29th, that's a great temperature. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I see people are coming in. When you come in, please tag someone. Tag someone and they can jump on and watch the broadcast right now. It'll be up on my Facebook page for a couple of weeks and up on YouTube for a whole lot longer. Let's just put it that way. All right. Demetrius Edwards, good to have you with me. Herbert Ponder, good to have you with me. All right. I'll give people about 30 more seconds to come on in for the last broadcast of Preaching and Preachers for 2025. Come on in and join me. And Wendell Craig Woods, good to have you with me as always. And this is going to be a Potpourri Monday. Potpourri, all right. Sherry Demper in Brooklyn, New York. All right, Brooklyn in the house. Brooklyn in the house. All right. Thank you for coming on and tagging people. I appreciate that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started. The broadcast will be a little bit shorter today because just like you, I've got a bunch of things to do to close out the year. So let me go ahead and get started. As always, I am praying for those who are sick, praying for those who are experiencing a season of bereavement, and I am praying for all churches all over the world, that your 2026 will be more impactful and positive than was 2025. All right. Amen. Let me start out by saying thank you. Thank you for having supported this broadcast all year long. I am still amazed. We are now in year 9. Year 9, believe that? And people still support this broadcast in amazing ways. And I just so appreciate that. Thank you for warming up to my YouTube page. This year, I really started to give that attention, and people have jumped on there and subscribed. And I really appreciate that too. And last but certainly not least, let me say thank you to all of my fabulous guests for 2025. They made the broadcast even more impactful. By way of announcements, join me for the first broadcast of the year, January 5th, 2026 at noon. And the topic will be preaching styles of preaching. That's right. The broadcast is titled Preaching and Preaching. We're going to open the year talking about preaching styles, and got great guest, Dr. Jennifer Carner, that's with a C, Dr. Joshua Mitchell, and Dr. Kia Hood Scott. Oh, the first broadcast is going to be outstanding. Thank you for joining me. If you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe to my page. If you are on Facebook Live, please tag someone, and so that they can jump on now or at least watch it later on Facebook and or YouTube. Um, I didn't really know how I wanted to end the year. So at one point I said, I'm so busy, maybe I'll just scratch it. Then I said, no, this has been a good year for this broadcast. So I at least needed to come on and say thank you. And then I decided that it just made sense to say a little bit about several things, several things. So, in potpourri fashion, let's get started. First thing I want to talk about in to close out the year, because I still don't think people are paying enough attention to this, is church closures. Church closures. And I've been talking about this since 2021. Okay, I went back and looked at some of my notes. 2021, I started to talk about churches closing, as even Black churches closing. And then in 2024, I said on a broadcast that by the end of 2025, we could expect that 7 to 10,000 churches would close by December 2025. Some numbers have it much higher than that, but 7 to 10,000 is, excuse me, 7 to 15,000. I'm sorry about that. Um, is a solid number. It's a solid number. Everyone has agreed on that number, from Axios, the Baptist Courier, Pew Research, the National Council of Churches. Everyone agrees on that number, that as many as 15,000 churches have closed between 24 and 25. And some of the groups that keep numbers are saying that actually the number should be much higher, that we could lose as many as 50,000 by the end of 2025. But I'm not going to go with a number that high, but I'm just putting it out there because there were several entities that pushed that number. But we know, like I said, 15,000 closed. They closed. We know that for certain. Okay. Now it was slightly different for the Black church, but not much different. Black churches are more vibrant. They hold on longer. But the decline has hit everywhere across the spectrum, regardless of of denomination, non-denominational, Black, white, Latino, Asian, you name it. Okay, there have been significant closures, and of course, you have to ask, when you see numbers that large, you have to start to look at some of the whys. Um, and the scholars will have put forth, those who teach congregational studies, especially, they put forth a variety of reasons, and I'm sure all of them have some truth in them. And of course, that there are people, number one, who don't really believe that they need God to keep them and safe, and their family safe, and etc. They are fine on their own. Then there are people who are, especially those who are educated, who have an alternative worldview about divine or supernatural forces and how they operate, and they don't think that it's confined to buildings, and so they don't tend to associate with buildings in any way. Um, then there's cultural pluralism, which says that you appreciate uh, the differences among beliefs and practices, but you don't take any worldview about faith and religion too seriously. You just don't. Um, and then there were people who chose to leave because they were disenchanted with the church. And people will say, well, God didn't lead you, so don't give up on God. And people will tell you right back, I didn't give up on God, but I did give up on a particular church for a variety of reasons, everything from church hurt to churches that were not effectively serving communities to churches that did not support women, um, so many different reasons. But the reasons I listed for you and pretty much summed up why so many churches have closed in the last 5 years, but especially the last two. Um, so just it happened. We just need to be clear on that. It happened. And you can sit around in your groups and on your chats and on Facebook and pretend that it didn't, but it did. And it's been coming for a long time. And guess what? The American church kept pretending that it wasn't happening, that it wasn't happening. Europe showed us what could happen. And we just said, no, it won't happen in the United States. Well, it did. It absolutely did. So it has happened. So the question becomes for American churches, a question, not necessarily the question, but one question becomes, how do you stop the slide? How do you stop the slide? And I'm talking to Black churches, although this may apply to other faith communities, but especially Black churches. And historically, and that's what I'm going to go with here, what history shows us stops declines in churches, faith communities, denominations, etc. What stops declines? The first thing that stops declines is not pretending that a decline could happen or is not happening. It's amazing to me how many churches watched as their in-person membership dropped from 100 down to that 30 number. And they just kept going along as if nothing was happening, as if the numbers weren't dropping. They especially kept going if they had money in the bank. They were like, forget the numbers, we can pay the bills. So they just kept going. They just kept going, pretending it was not happening. That's the first thing you've got to do, though, is recognize the decline. You've got to say, it's happening. We are in trouble. We're dying. We're whatever, phraseology you want to use. Be honest. Be honest about it. Be honest about it. Members need to be honest. Ministers, pastors, be honest about what's happening, okay? Second, when you see a slide and the church is older, those churches from the 1800s, 1901, 2, 3, 4, 5, the church is older, congregation is older, pastor is older, It's time for new leadership. It's time for new leadership. You can slice and dice it any way you want to. It's time for new leadership. And that's the way the church should operate. The church didn't begin with us, it won't end with us. Okay? It's time for new leadership. You may need a new pastor, some new deacons, new trustees, new stewards, a new choir, new singing groups. It's time for new leadership. Be real about that. Don't just say, we're dying. What are we going to do? You got to consider new leadership. However, you go about that, okay? Underline that in bold. If you are dying, it's time for new leadership. It really, really is, because all of the current leadership, okay, they're not new. Like I said, they've been around a while, and they were there for the decline. I'm not going to say they caused it necessarily, but they were there for it and they couldn't stop it or didn't stop it. So it is time for new leadership, unless you want to be one of the churches that closes. Okay? It's time, it's just time for new leadership. Also, you've got to go. If you say what we need to do is bring in new members, you've got to go get those members. You've got to go get those members. Don't just say, put it on a piece of paper and say, yeah, we need new members. Everybody says that, okay? But will you go and get them? Will you? They are not. Your church is in decline and about to close. So they're not walking in your door. They're not walking in your door. So just stop sitting up and waiting for people to walk in the door. Go get them. What do I mean by go get them? And, I've said this before, it's obvious, but I'm just going to repeat. Number one, you've got to change, update, upgrade your technological game. You just do, unless you want to go ahead and just die. Okay? You just got to go and change your technological game. You need a new look, a new approach. You need to let people know what you are doing, etc. The church that I used to attend, it closed. I was there, I think, 10 or 11 years. It closed. Small UCC church, it closed. So I got a flyer, and I couldn't believe this, and it was a colored, glossy flyer in my mailbox at my house. And I said, okay. Since I'm looking at churches, considering new churches, let me try this one. And I did, and I joined. Okay. Now, of course, I looked into the church and etc. But it started with that flyer in my mailbox. That's where it started. Then I went online. And checked it out, etc. What were they doing? What did they believe? Those kinds of things. That's one way that you will help the slide end. You've got to up your your technological game. You just do. And it's not about so many bells and whistles as it is a website that's eye-catching. You don't need 20 tabs, but your things do need to be eye-catching. Okay? Your online presence has to change. Not only is your website, you're streaming, and I keep seeing pastors that say, I'm just going to stop streaming so that the people have to come in person. Please don't stop. Please don't stop. Do not stop. Because whether you like it or not, online streaming is here to stay. It's here to stay. Now, be clear. Before COVID 19, how long ago was COVID 19? 4 or 5 years ago now? Before COVID 19, church attendance average now for everybody had already reached just 2 Sundays a month. Just 2 Sundays a month. So if you think by telling people you're going to cut off streaming so they will come to the building, they only come in 2 Sundays if they come. Okay? It is going to stay. It is going to be around. And somebody said, if you don't have one, they'll watch somebody else's. And they will, because as I said, they're only coming to that building if they're coming to the building 2 Sundays out of the month. So you got to, just up your technological game. And if you say, oh, I don't know how to do it, I can't handle all of that, which is, was everybody was screaming that during COVID, but you learned. You learned. It wasn't rocket science. We figured it out. We figured it out, and we will figure it out again. You will figure it out if you're interested. If you're interested, if you're not, you won't, and you'll see the results. Okay? So you got to go get people through your websites, through streaming and enhancing your tech game, and then just go into your community. Go into your community. That's another thing that caught my eye about the church I now attend. They were at things in the community. Community fairs. Your church should be attending some. Political gatherings. Your church should be attending some. I'm seeing a large number of ministers, clergy, etc., start to attend the gatherings here to stop the data centers that are trying to, come into Georgia, which are just so bad for communities, period. Black communities, white any communities, they are bad news. And so I've been watching these meetings that are all over YouTube, Instagram, etc. And I'm starting to see clergy show up. Show up. Okay? It will not work if your church is dying, shrinking, whatever your word you want to use, and you decide, well, I'll just continue to cloister myself and stay inside and keep doing what we are doing. That's your head in the sand. That's pretending that something is not happening. And the members, lay people, when you see a decline, act like you see the decline. The pastor may just want to hold on to his or her position until he or she dies, but you don't have to accept that. You really, really don't. You can ask for new leadership, ask for new ideas, change things. You can do that. You can do that. You can help the pastor dream again. You can do that, even if the pastor is basically like, no. No, you can help the pastor dream again. Don't just accept. Don't just accept what you see. Okay? Don't just accept it. So, like I said, the churches are closing in large numbers. And the last thing that you can do is to ask for help. Ask for help. There, you will get some help from denominations. The group called Fishing Differently, they provide all kinds of assistance for churches So you might want to, somebody put in the chat, please. The group, the organ is fishingdifferently.org. You may want to reach out to a church consultant. Okay. You may, and so, try the variety of things. There are many ways. There are many ways to do it, but just don't sit still. Uh, just don't sit still and not do anything unless you are okay with your church closing. Colette said, ultimatums rarely work. You are absolutely right. They do rarely work. But the first ultimatum that ought to be given is to yourself. That's the first ultimatum that ought to be given. Okay? Give yourself an ultimatum. I will do better. I will help my church grow. I will give new life to my church. Give it to yourself. Just make that ultimatum to yourself, okay? And then look forward for new ways for new life. Second thing I wanted to look at, and unfortunately, we're still talking about things closing, and that's seminaries closing. Seminaries closing. Memphis Theological announced, not sure if it was in November or early December, that they were closing. And unfortunately, we have at least 3 other Black seminaries, at least 3, that are not in the greatest financial condition, and they could very well be gone or closed by 2027. Okay. And it's serious, it's unfortunate, but again, it's a reality. I remember telling a young man who called and asked me for a letter of reference to attend Memphis Theological. And I said to him, Memphis Theological won't be open in a year from now. And he was just, well, are you certain? Are you this? Are you that? And I just thought to myself, I wouldn't have told you if I wasn't certain. Because I do good research. And I talk with people at institutions. And that's how I know we've got 3 Black seminaries in trouble that could close by 2027. Why? Why are seminaries closing? Black seminaries, white seminaries, all seminaries, they're all closing. Okay. I mean, I focused on the Black ones, but they're all closing. So many are closing across the board. Number one, seminaries are closing because there are people who decided they just don't want to go to seminary due to cost, disinterest in seminary structures, or whatever it is. So that the people, there are many who don't want to go anymore. And they're also closing because seminaries help students not to want to attend a particular school because those schools were stuck and they were dying just as the churches were dying. Okay. This was happening at the same time. It was happening at the same time. Okay. Seminaries and churches go together. All right. I want to say like peanut butter and jelly, but there's even a tighter nexus than that. Okay. It's even tighter than that. And so schools stopped updating their curriculum. And you all heard all the stories. This is what's happening in the church. This is what they're teaching in the seminary, and there was no connection. And people kept saying that, kept saying that, kept saying that, but seminaries weren't listening. So they just kept doing what they were doing. People started saying, at least, this is 2025, people started saying 10 years ago, we need online education. We need online education. We shouldn't have to go to a building for this, and this, although we don't mind going for some things. We shouldn't have to go to a building for everything. Check the news articles. You will see that people were saying that 15 years ago. Nobody was listening. Now, as seminaries are shrinking and closing, everybody's running to get online. When in most cases, if you're just now getting on, it's too late. It's too late. It's just too late. Okay? It's just too late. Another reason, of course, that seminaries are closed, just like churches, is just bad management. And by bad, I mean individuals who couldn't raise money, didn't have vision, didn't look out at the landscape and say, this is where we are now. All of that's bad management. It's bad management. Okay. Seminaries with outdated boards, same people been on the boards 20 years, haven't raised any money, haven't done anything but loaned their name. And, most of the people don't really care about who's on your board. They don't know who's on your board. They'll know who's on your board if they raise money and do something major. But all of that is part of bad management, from boards to deans to presidents. No new ideas, okay? No new ideas, no visioning, not being able to see around the corner. And you don't have to be able to see, 50 years ahead, but at least 5, at least 10. But that's another reason seminaries are closing, bad management. And the other thing, of course, that if churches are closing in large numbers, that's impacting seminaries. That means denominations have fewer people to send to seminary. And it also means that those who go to seminary have fewer places to be employed, fewer places to do ministry. So it's all connected. It's all connected. So it's, there are no easy answers for how we stop seminaries from closing, because unfortunately, by the time a seminary is ready to close or merge with another seminary, it's hard to say. It's just really, really hard. And yes, money will help, but money won't do everything. There are actually schools that have money, but because they don't have visionary leadership, they're going to close. They are going to close. They are not attracting good students. They are not attracting great faculty who are writing the latest materials that people in the church need, that are needed in theological education. Okay. When students often talk to me about going to seminary, one of the things that I'll say to them is, who's teaching at that seminary? Who's teaching? Who's teaching at that seminary? And so if you've got a seminary, where people have been teaching the same courses for 10 years, that's a problem. If you've got a seminary that doesn't have any online courses, that's a problem. Okay. If you've got a seminary that's not involved in the world, in the community in any way, that's a problem. That's a problem. And all of that will lead to closure. So um, I don't have any big solutions or anything for keeping seminaries open. That there are people who are working on that. What I will say is, um, if there's a seminary you are care about and you want to support, please do so in a robust way in 2026 because, as I said, seminaries are in trouble. Okay. Potpourri Monday. Thank you for joining me. If you're in YouTube, please like and subscribe. The next thing I want to say something about is the women still fighting to get ordained. This one is just, I mean, really, the days that I want to, pull my hair out the little that I still have left. Um, it's just really ridiculous that women are still fighting in 2026. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and say 2026 to get ordained. It's just really, really, someone said, I'm going to go ahead and say this because it's true. Someone said we've got people at teaching at seminaries that don't have accredited degrees. Yeah, that's true. That's sure enough true. But anyway, why are women still having to fight to get ordained? I can't say it any simpler than one of the main reasons is just misogyny. It's just misogyny, plain and simple. It's a dislike of women. And in this case, we're talking about Black women. And let me just give you an example that I posted about uh, a public conversation on Instagram and may have been on TikTok and elsewhere too about a dress worn by Reverend Carrie Bryant, who's married to Reverend Jamal Bryant. It never ceases. It just never ceases that women, because most of these start with women. Okay, men jump on the train, but these kinds of trains start with women. They start with women. And it has to do with public respectability, what you can and can't wear in church, how your hair should look, how long your nails should be, should your heels be low, high, all of those kinds of things. And to tell you the truth, it's misogyny because it's always pointed at women who are outspoken, women who are independent. Okay. And like I said, women can be misogynistic too. They can be misogynistic too because they bought into the misogyny that they learned from men. So that's one of the main reasons women are having to fight to get ordained is because they're fighting other women. They're fighting other women while they're in systems that are set up and controlled by men. Okay? They are controlled by men. And let me just say for 2026, when you see a woman in ministry, online, and it has to do with clothing, hair, nails, eyelashes, etc., silence is an option. Just remember that. Silence is always an option. You don't have to talk. just because everybody else is talking. I know you want likes and stuff too, but silence is an option, or deleting it, or just scrolling on by, just scrolling on by. Don't get caught up in the misogyny. Don't just get caught up in the misogyny just because everybody else is doing it, that you wanted people to hear from you. And it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. There are things that I see online uh, every day, from the White House down to every house, black folks' houses rather, that wouldn't work for me. Okay, that wouldn't work for me. With hair, clothes, nails, I wouldn't do it. But do you think I would waste my time if it has to do with appearance? If it just has to do, come on. We've got to, okay, stop the misogyny. And second, women are still fighting to get ordained because of patriarchy. Patriarchy. And let me just give you a textbook definition. Patriarchy is a social system in which men hold primary power and dominate, whether in political leadership, they may dominate through social privilege, control of property, and control of economics, while women are generally subordinate within these same structures that these men created. Okay? Patriarchy is not a private arrangement. It's a societal thing. It is a societal thing, okay? And it covers a broad system of arrangement. If you've read Project 2025, one of the things that runs through it, I mean, there's several themes that run through it, from cruelty to sexism to racism, but patriarchy really runs through it. It runs through it. And in the Black church, we're the prophetic church, we're the freedom fighters. Despite this, we are still using patriarchy to hold women down, despite the fact that so many brothers over the last 50 years have been in school with women clergy. They're still acting as if they don't understand or refuse to accept that men in ministry have gifts. Okay? So that's two reasons why women are still fighting to get ordained in 2026. Another reason women are fighting is because women are staying. Now, you know me, I'm just going to tell it like it is. Women are also staying in some of these patriarchal spaces for resume purposes. Resume purposes. Just be honest about it. They believe that they might get some engagement, something, okay, if they stay in a church with a particular profiles, and that those churches or organization can help them climb whatever ladder they're trying to climb. Okay. Also, patriarchy, misogyny, staying for resume purposes are all saying that's all. I don't know what's happening to my screen, but it also, women are not getting ordained because they don't have enough courage to leave where they are. They believe that they will be blackballed. They believe that their pastor will call around town or call around the country, etc. And that's true. One of mine did. So what? So what? You still got to stand up for yourself if you believe God called you. And you don't have to win every battle, but God will help you win the war so that you can get ordained. Okay? But none of that happens until you get some courage. So even if your knees are shaking, stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself and then get yourself into groups, organizations, etc., with like-minded people. And some will be men, like-minded people that will increase your courage, that will increase your courage. So women won't have to fight as much to be ordained if women stop fighting women. Just stop it. In churches, online, just stop it. Unless you see a woman that's out here harming children or something like that, scroll on by. Scroll on by. Okay? Don't waste your time on so much of this stuff. Okay? And then men, step up. Step up. You've been in seminary with these women, you've seen their gifts, you know it, okay? And you know that you and your brother still hold the main levers of power. You know this. You know it. But you've got to step up and do your part. And don't act like you don't know that this is going on. And one of the things that men need to stop doing, men will put women in positions at their churches, even paid positions, but they won't ordain them. They won't ordain them. That is insanity. That's some insanity. Okay. Then I've seen men who won't ordain women so that those women are slow to leave because they can continue to work them like mules. Sisters, you can leave even if you don't have the ordination. You just leave. Just leave. Okay? Just leave. Just leave. If you know that you've been faithful, you've done the work, and the church is still willing not to ordain you. And here's what they do is they'll say things like, well, do you have a job? And you working 40 hours a week for the church, but they won't ordain you. So you know it's not about whether you had a job. And it really didn't become, do you have a job, until maybe 40, 50 years ago when all of these women showed up in seminaries. Then it became, do you have a job? And the denominations were saying that. Do you have a job? No, I don't have a job because number one, you wouldn't ordain me. Number two, you won't hire me. Okay? So it's a catch-22, and we know we're doing it. So men need to step up. You need to step up. And then there are women who are pastoring who could be more supportive. They could be more supportive. Everybody knows their names, but you don't know the name of any of their mentees. You don't know the names of anyone they supported and promoted. That's problematic. And I know people get sick of me supporting and pushing my kids, but who else should do it? If I'm their mentor, mother ministry, whatever term you want to use, who else should do it? So sisters, those sisters who have those positions of power, you ought to be pushing some trains toward ordination too. You can help. Okay? You can help. And then there are just basic things that all clergy can do. For instance, I get asked all the time, will you sit on the ordination council for this or, this group, that kind of thing? And first thing I ask is, are any women being ordained? If they're not, I'm not interested. And I'm not saying your council's not, got good people on it. It probably does, but I am not interested. I am not interested. Call somebody else for that. When I see flyers that don't have any women on them and 10 men, and it's not men's day, it's not a men's conference, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And even brothers that I love, I'm going to say something about it. I'm going to say something about it because it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't push us forward. It doesn't push us forward. So that's, hope that in 2026 we do better. We ordain more women. We support more women in ministry. Let me spend the last 10 minutes on the list of the top preachers for 2025. There's a list that came out a few weeks ago and everybody was talking about it. So I said, anybody can do a list. And so since I study preaching and write about preaching, they've taught preaching, let me give my list of the top preachers for 2025. Okay. And I have a list that's from around the country that concerns preachers around the country. And it's not in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 order. So just remember, it's not in any particular order. Number 1, top preachers of 2025 are preachers who collaborated. That's right. Preachers who collaborated. It's always made sense to collaborate with other churches and faith communities, but in a period of scarcity, oligarchy, racism, and cruelty, collaboration is absolutely necessary. It's absolutely necessary. So that's top preachers of 2025. Number 1, those who collaborated. Okay. Next, top preachers of 2025 are those people who stood up for Black churches and stopped chasing white folk and intercultural relationships. And I know that's going to bother some people, and I don't care. And here's what I mean. One of the things that we've seen from this administration, and because of this administration, is racism unhinged. Not that we haven't seen it before, but here it is again. And what happened is that it emboldened white folk to say what they want to say about Black churches, what we should be preaching, what we should be teaching, etc. But we had preachers, brothers and sisters, who pushed back. And then, we've always had Black churches who said we want to be intercultural, interfaith, etc. And so they supported synagogues and relationships with the Jewish community. And then when the bombing occurred, and even though it was horrible and should never have happened, there were Black churches that said, but what about Palestine? You can't have apartheid and expect that nothing will occur to you. And Jewish leaders were upset about any support, and I don't mean all, because I know you all love to say, but it wasn't all. Of course, nothing is ever all. But Jewish leaders were really upset at the support that Black clergy gave to Palestine. I want to salute you. You saw it was apartheid. You saw that it was oppression, and you called it out. You had enough sense to know that the Israel of the Bible is not the Israel of today, of 2025, in Africa. Some of y'all call it the Middle East. And, I don't even go in why that's a ridiculous term. But anyway, number 2 group. Top preachers of 2025, the third group are preachers who showed respect for women and supported women. You are MVPs. You did not use women as window dressing. They were your comrades in ministry. You hired them. You put them on your flyers. You invited them in to preach. You supported their ministries, their nonprofits. You are MVPs, and that's for men and women who did that. Okay? Then, next group, talking about great preachers, the greatest preachers of 2025. The next group was preachers who either led or supported causes that helped our people. Too often we stand on the sidelines. It's just the truth. We say, Doc, all I can do is keep my church going. Okay. That may be where you are, but I want to shout out those who supported causes that helped our people, whether you helped with the Target boycott, you helped feed people, you helped point out, just the insanity of this administration. You helped at school board meetings. You ran for office. You helped people who ran for office, okay? You made a difference. You supported causes that helped Black folk. And I have no shame in talking about uplifting Black churches, helping Black people. And all of each of you who say, I want to help everybody, etc., you all can go do that. I'm going to help us. Okay. Next group are preachers who did the outstanding preachers, great sermons in 2025 that helped us all get through the year better. 2025 was hellacious. From death to the cruelty we saw to people suffering and struggling, it was hard. And there were people who came with a word from the Lord. And thank goodness for those who streamed, we got to hear them. We got to hear them. Thank God. And you all, you know who they were. You know who they were. You listened to. Okay. We thank God for the powerful sermons that we heard. For me, I didn't hear enough, but I thank God for what we did hear, for those preachers who put in the time. You did the exegesis. You did the hard study. You knew your context. And you were not afraid to say what thus saith the Lord. You are MVPs also for 2025. The preachers who just did great preaching. As much as I love hooping, not the preachers who just hollered. Okay? The people who did great preaching. All right? I don't really care how you closed, although I love hooping, but you had great messages. Next, thank goodness and heroes of 2025. The next group is preachers who kept us thinking through our theology. And they helped us. They taught us new things. They helped us to reconsider ways we looked at the Bible. They helped us take off blinders. They helped us to get over some of that uh, stuff that we learned in Sunday school that we never tested or questioned. They improved our game. Iron sharpens irons. So we thank God for all of those who were all preachers who did great teaching. And so many did it online. They had classes, or they talked about their books, they wrote, etc. These preachers are to be lauded and applauded. We've got to improve. We've got to improve our theology, the way we think through theology, and not be afraid to say, I don't know. I changed my mind. That no longer makes sense to me. And there were so many great preachers who helped us do that, as well as academicians. Just these are, they helped us in 2025. Next group, ministers of music. Yeah, right. They are ministers too. They're ministers too. They don't go around preaching sermons, but they help with our worship and arts departments. We saw some wonderful music and worship and art in 2025. And so I want to shout out all of the ministers of music who just worked so hard to be excellent and to give God glory and to present excellence Sunday after Sunday after Sunday to their churches. I thank God for you. You held up a standard and you taught, because there are always new ministers of music. You taught in so many ways. Thank God for you. 2025, great ministers in the country were those who used technology to teach better, preach better, and mobilize their congregations better. That's right. They were important. You took technology seriously. You looked not only at what AI could do as an interlocutor for helping you write a sermon, perhaps, or study, etc., but you looked at the issue of data centers. You looked at the environmental cost of using AI, and you taught about it, wrote about it, preached about it. So you took technology very seriously, right? Then we need to shout out for 2025 all of those preachers who led small and rural churches and did it well and with excellence. And 2025, like I said, starting out, so many churches closed, but there were brothers and sisters who just, I mean, often working two jobs. They got it done. They got it done in rural and small churches. And over the next 3 years, which we know are going to be tough under this idiot, you all are MVPs, and I thank God for you. And the final group for 2025 that I want to shout out on my list are preachers who stayed in the trenches all year long, and you were just faithful. You did the best you could every Sunday. You looked for new approaches, new methods. You taught your Sundays, taught your Bible studies. You preached all of the time. You went to see about your people. You cared for your community. You stayed in the trenches. You were faithful. And God rewards faithfulness. God rewards faithfulness. That's my list of outstanding clergy for 2025. That's my top 10. Thank you for closing out the year with me. And I hope that 2026 is filled with blessings for you and your family. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe on my page. Thank you for hitting my Cash App. This is the last Monday. If you have not given to this broadcast in 2025, please do so today. Somebody put in the chat, it's $ love my work 123. If you don't know what the Cash App is, love my work 123. There are so many guests that I want for 2026, but I need help paying them. Okay, I really, really do. And I've invited and would love to invite, 2 or 3 more months of people, but I know these people expect an honorarium. As I tell people all the time, I don't use this broadcast to pay my bills, but it does help me. It does help me with guests. It really, really does. I appreciate your support. And I've always said, if it's whether it's $5 or $500, I appreciate it all. Love my work 123. Thank you for hitting my Cash App. Don't forget, join me on January 5th for the first broadcast of the year, talking about preaching styles. Last but not least, and I always say it, share the video. It won't cost you anything, and this video could help someone you know. Share the video. God bless. If it's God's will, I'll see you in 2026. Take care, everybody.